Hi everyone, I'm Josh.
And I'm Jim, and this is the Dapper Meeple.
This show is about our love of gaming, the games we play, and the gaming community around this passion.
So grab some snacks, pull up a chair, and join us at the table with your monocle and bowler hat. Hey kids, remember, this is an adult podcast and may contain adult language.
Also, the Dapper Meeple outfit, not required.
Ahoy, mates. Today we be seeing who be the best pirate, getting that plunder and fighting the monsters with We're Sinking in games we be playing.
And coming back to dry land, we'll go over some predictions that have come true, Magic the Gathering Commander Band's Backlash, and a brand new TTRPG digital magazine coming out this month.
And of course, we'll have our crowdfunding roundup featuring Parks and Potions from Chris over at Moon Saga Workshop.
All that and more on this episode of the Dapper Meeple.
I think a lot of us struggle at times to figure out where we fit in society and with life. And I think we may be moving towards a niche that has gone out of fashion, but we may be oracles.
And just like that, we took the title from Nostradamus right away from him. And here we go.
We're not writing any books either. We're going to make videos. You guys can listen later. We're updating.
So one day when those time capsules get popped, there it is right there. That little TikTok short.
These two D-list podcasters right here just called the whole end of the world. It was crazy. So what we're talking about is, if you listen to the last episode, we had Chris on from Moon Saga Games, and he kicked off his first Kickstarter with Parks and Potions. He was asking, what, 10 grand?
Yep, that was his opening amount.
And he's at 51,000 right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Obviously, first came out. If you listen to the last episode, he's got some big plans. The best part, I think, for me was how he talked about he wanted to build a community around that and be part of that community to help others coming up behind it.
People that are designing games, trying to figure out how to produce them, getting his lessons learned already. So that's very cool. We're going to talk about Parks and Potions over in the crowdfunding roundup. So if you're interested, we'll have a link in the show notes, and you can go jump on to this awesome bandwagon. Don't take that as a bad term either. This bandwagon is the fun bandwagon, right?
This is the good bandwagon.
That's right.
It's not like that sports team bandwagon where you can't really talk about it a lot because people make fun of you. No, this is one you want to talk about.
All the geeks and nerds are climbing on. It's a good time. Also, on top of things that we talked a little bit before about Space Marine 2, the new video game that was coming out based in the Warhammer 40K universe. Games Workshop, again, decided they'd let somebody take a shot at it, and it was done really well, incredibly well.
Because you can't call yourself an oracle if you only get one prediction right.
You got to have a pattern.
Yeah,
got to have a pattern.
Yeah, so definitely seen some interest around Warhammer, the game, the tabletop game, after the Space Marine kind of has blown up a little bit.
Like millions of downloads in the first week. Like just a huge success as far as looking at it from the numbers from Steam. So I ran by my local Games Workshop to pick up something for Marie for her birthday. She's decided she's starting a demon army of Slaanesh. So I picked her up the Demonette set, which is like 10 little punk rocker female-ish demons.
Yeah,
because that's Slaanesh. And I might have picked up Morganval for myself because the Abbas Sanctorum. But as I was in there, I was talking to the guy because I was interested. Like, yeah, the game has gotten really popular really quickly. Has there been a lot of feedback, or have you seen anything come out of that? And he was like, oh my God, yes. Or the weekend after it came out, they did $20,000 worth of sales in 2 days in that shop.
Wow.
So
that's wild. So for those of you who don't know where we're talking, it's a tiny little shop here in Virginia Beach that's all they sell is just Warhammer stuff.
It is a Games Workshop store, and that's their business model is one dude runs this one shop.
Yeah. So that's wild. Yeah. And speaking of crossovers between the board game world and the video gaming world, if you guys haven't played TCG Card Shop Simulator, I don't know what to tell you, but it's fantastic. It just makes me happy in ways that I don't know that I can describe. But yeah, if you ever dreamed of owning your own card shop and you like talking to customers badly where they'll never ever hear you, I think it's just really therapy for retail workers. That might be all right. We cracked the case. There we go. If it's something interesting, take a look at it. It's definitely a fantastic game. It definitely crosses over the TCG world with the video game world.
My other favorite part of this is people are being introduced to what is commonly known as the grim dark, and they're learning things as they're playing through the game. One woman on TikTok was playing through the game and streaming, and she came across a cherub, right? So criminals just don't have a good time going in the Warhammer 40K universe. Usually they're lobotomized and used as the basis for a cyborg to do one thing. It's going to carry cargo, it may be a combat servitor or whatever. They also have a version of them that are babies with wings.
Yeah.
And it's not that dark. They are grown in vats. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. But to a newcomer, you don't know that. All is a baby cyborg with wings, and it freaked her out a little bit. And then people were like, oh, that's not the worst thing, and started giving her suggestions on what to look up. So we may have scared her off completely. But yeah, it's dark. Don't go looking till you're ready.
The Grimdark's not for everyone, right?
The Emperor protects. I don't know what to tell you. Speaking of emperors, how are things going with Magic?
If you have any interest in Magic the Gathering or even just a casual following, I'm sure you've heard about the Commander bans that have come out in the past week or so. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, Commander is a format of Magic. It is a singleton format, so every card in your deck is going to be a different card, and it's played with a 100 card deck versus a 60 card deck. It's very casual, usually. That's how it was originally started. But there is a group of volunteers that are known as the Rules Committee that have come together years and years ago to make Commander into a more official format. Right. So they handle the ban list for Commander, what cards are good, bad, that sort of thing. And that's the whole job that they have. They're not officially employed by Wizards. They've taken it on themselves as volunteers to do this. But overall, it's been an improvement to the format. It's taken it from like a kitchen table Magic level to now, more often than not, at any larger events, you will see Commander tournaments. Right. So with them, you also have the Commander Advisory Group, which is another group of volunteers that help to advise and talk with the Rules Committee on cards that may or may not need to be banned and what their thoughts on new releases and all sorts of stuff like that. The bans that have just come out, there were 4 cards that the Rules Committee said that now were banned in the Commander format. So the 4 cards are Nadu Winged Wisdom, the Dockside Extortionist, Mana Crypt, and Jeweled Lotus. Now, Nadu, everyone knew was going to be banned eventually. There are too many other cards that interact with it in a broken way.
Got it.
The other 3 basically do a very similar purpose. They provide the player with fast mana, which helps you to cast more powerful cards sooner in the game. And what it did was made it more consistent to have a game of Commander that was extremely quick. What the Rules Committee said in their statement in banning is by getting rid of these cards, they're hoping that it slows the format down to create a more opportunity for players to use like creative strategies and things like that may take more time to develop.
Okay.
That's great. It's a great purpose. The problem is Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt as cards on the secondary market were both worth anywhere from $100 to some versions of them being 1,000 plus. These cards were only usable in the Commander format as opposed to all the other formats of Magic. So when they were banned, now the price tanked. If you go on like tcgplayer.com where you can see card pricing and things like that, you look up these cards, you see the graph has this noticeable just off a cliff dive. So obviously a lot of people were upset, right? Because these cards are expensive. They invested into them. Some of them were using them. Some of them were collectors that were just collecting them. But now these cards are practically worthless when it comes to playability in the game.
So real quick, from somebody that doesn't know anything, you say they're only usable or they were only used in the Commander format. Are they still usable in like regular sanctioned tournaments that are not Commander?
No, because they weren't legal in really any other format.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
But their popularity in Commander is what drove up their prices.
Yes.
Got it.
With that, we have a lot of upset people. Like a lot of upset people. because we're talking some pretty large financial losses, especially of collectors that are looking for it. Also, game stores and stuff like that that invested in having these products available for customers to buy or maybe traded for them recently, especially, that can be problems. There have been a lot of backlash from the community about this, including at direct members of the rules committee, which include but are not limited to death threats and all that sort of stuff, which is never a good thing.
Right. That is completely out of hand. I don't care. We're not, they didn't cause Black Tuesday or something.
Right. I completely agree. I don't think there's ever room for that. I think there is room for solid discussion about it, and you can be upset about it,
Oh, absolutely.
but you never go after specific people. That's just wrong. But with that, we've had some changes. So the Commander Advisory Group, one of the main members of that was Josh Lee Kwai. He has a very popular YouTube channel called Game Nights, where it's all about Commander. Like, they invite famous people onto their show who play Commander. Like, people like Post Malone have been on the show.
Nice.
Who's a huge Commander fan.
Yeah.
And they play games of Commander, and they film it, and they put cool animations and stuff like that in there. It's a great place if you've never seen it. If you want to see what it looks like, go take a look. But he actually resigned from the Commander Advisory Group over this for various reasons, which him and Rachel Weeks, who is another member of the Commander Advisory Group, have a YouTube episode where they talk about their thoughts on the bannings and why they did the things that they did. So definitely take a look at that if you're interested in the topic. Say all that to say this. There have been some good and bad from the community that has come out of this.
Sure.
The bad, obviously, being the people making death threats and things like that, is really shown the awful side of what sometimes this community is. But then there's been the good. One of the big things that has happened is I've seen a lot of local game stores posting very publicly, hey, if we sold you one of these cards within the recent weeks, or even one was up to a month,
yeah,
they said, bring them back to the store. We'll give you full store credit for what you paid for them. That's, to me, that's crazy, because it's not their fault. They had nothing to do with the bannings. There's no way they could have known or anything like that. But I think that really shows some of the heart of the gaming community, especially local game stores.
Yeah.
When they're willing to go above and beyond for their customer, because honestly, it's probably easier for them to absorb the hit than it is for maybe their individual customers.
Sure. And one, they're building that goodwill because, again, like some game cafes that we know, it's not just about making money off of our community. It is about being a part of it.
Because I feel as a game store, it's a lottery anyway when you're talking about Magic singles.
Yeah.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. And I think this is kind of part of that. But I think it really shows stores that are doing this, because obviously not everyone is, but stores that are doing this, it really shows a goodwill towards their community. And if your local store is doing something like this, go support them.
I was going to say, like we say all the time, support the stuff that you love. Just what I've learned as we've looked into what running a store would essentially mean.
Yeah.
Magic keeps the doors open a lot of the time.
A lot of the time.
Yeah. Definitely digging into their bread and butter there.
Yeah. Yeah. And now talking about stores that are not as good.
Tabletop Workers United up in New York, a group of game store workers who came together to form a union. The owners fought it all the way until officially they called in a mediator. They were able to form a union. Now, through negotiations, the owners have pushed back constantly over and over again, refusing to negotiate, even having their representative at the negotiating table tell these workers to burn in hell, I believe was the quote. So they began a petition. Basically, people in the local community asking them, like, hey, if this continues, would you be willing to boycott the stores? And that the numbers are getting up there. I think it's going to be significant if it comes to that. They've also done walkouts in all three of the stores. The latest walkout was at the Brooklyn Strategist, which is one of the three stores where they just came out, and a lot of what they're doing is trying to inform the public about what is going on with these negotiations with the union and how they are being treated, things that the owners are doing, basically trying to punish them for forming a union. Just in case you don't know, or maybe you're a fan of the Pinkertons or something, that's illegal. On top of that, one of the owners, John Freeman, actually called the cops on their protest.
Yeah.
So you gotta not like this guy.
Yeah, obviously negotiations are going about as well as they have been.
And we've had this talk, not a business guy, but I have a firm belief in unions, especially because there really is no other mechanism in our systems that protect the workers.
Yeah.
If you feel like you are not being treated well, one option is go get another job. But if you're at a job that you love and telling people that they should go get another job really to me says that your job isn't important, right? And I don't think that's the right answer, especially in our community. These are the things that we love, and you have to have people to do that job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, another walkout. We're going to keep updated on this because I think this is important. I feel like this is part of our community, even though it's happening up in New York. I think this could have huge ramifications across the rest of our community and across game stores, and especially across those places where there is a company that is trying to make money off of us without being part of us.
Yes.
Wizards is dipping its toe there real hard a lot. Just saying.
Yeah. So, on a much better note, we have a brand new magazine for TTRPG fans launching in October. So, ever since the digital reboot of the Dragon magazine
Mm-hmm.
went down in, I think it was July of 22, it pretty much left the only tabletop magazine now is the White Dwarf from Games Workshop,
which is primarily Warhammer. Yeah.
So we have a brand new publication that's going to be quarterly in a digital version, and it's going to be all about TTRPG. Most of the articles are going to be focused on D&D 5th edition, but there are going to be articles specifically for other popular RPG systems.
So this new publication is called Horizons. The team behind it is led by Hannah Rose and Clara Daly. Hannah Rose has been an editor. She's been part of the MCDM productions. She's done artwork. She's known in the community as far as the workforce there. Clara Daly is also an artist who was tied to Critical Role. Their season 3, she did a lot of the artwork for them.
Yeah, I know Hannah Rose has worked on a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons products.
Mm-hmm.
I think like Descent into Avernus. I think she was on Journeys into the Radiant Citadel as well. I like having these two at the helm. Like, it seems like this is going to be a very interesting product, because what they're looking at doing is like the traditional Dragon magazine, they're putting out scenarios and things for DMs to be able to take and fit right into their games.
Yeah. And I used to always love those magazines when I was first getting into the hobby, just for the lore aspect of it, as well as some of the ideas for gameplay.
Yeah.
A lot of them would do a really deep dive on a particular topic, which was great for people like me when you wanted to play that game and you wanted to incorporate that. It wasn't just the surface of, hey, here's a town of dark elves, or you actually got to build that environment. Yeah. And it sounds like they're trying to do the same sort of thing. They did say probably 3/4 of the magazine is going to be geared towards Dungeons & Dragons, but other popular TTRPGs would be brought in as well, because let's introduce people to those.
Yeah, and they even talked about in the first edition that's going to be coming out in October, there's going to be a really cool article on star dragons. That's going to be, it was a concept by a space plasma physicist, which I think is fantastic. So yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of this. I think it's definitely very interesting. It's only $5 a month if you pay monthly.
Right, and $54 for an annual.
Yeah, so they give you a little bit of discount if you do an annual, and then they're looking at coming out quarterly with a new edition of it digitally.
Hey, so there you go. From predictions met to people making mistakes and losing some money to hearing about a new union, and then with that nice upswing of Horizons magazine. That's how you do an opening. That's textbook. When you guys dig this up in the future, just keep note of this. And now, in Games We Play, We're Sinking.
We're Sinking, designed by Joseph Frederick, with art by Joseph Frederick and Roman Novikov, published by Ludomus Games. A successful pirate's life is all about treasure, high seas adventure, and living to tell the tale. We're Sinking is a secret action-taking survival game where players take on the role of pirates on a ship that has found itself the object of ire of one of these threats from the sea: the Kraken, Megalodon, Sirens, or Skeleton Pirates, each attempting to sink your ship, taking your well-earned plunder, and probably more. Players can choose between 4 actions: bucketing water, patching breaches and busted cannons, firing cannons at the enemy, or plundering revealed loot cards. Players discuss which action they will take, but they are pirates, and pirates lie. Each player secretly sets their compass with the action they will take and places it in the column of the action they want everyone to think they are taking. Sometimes it's not a bluff, but other times. When the ship takes on too much water, a level slips below the waves, and you remove a layer of the ship, watching it sit lower and lower with each missing level. If the crew rallies and defeats the monster before the ship is sunk, then you count the treasure in your hand, and whoever has the most gold wins. But if greed gets the best of the crew this time and you lose the ship, the pirate with the fewest cards in their hand is light enough to escape, and living is winning.
Have you ever seen the quote from there was a Disney cartoon for kids, and they said, pirates never take things that aren't theirs. And I was like, you're dumb.
I haven't seen that. No.
Between that and VeggieTales,
Ruining the foundations of our society.
I love it when a place like Ludomus Games comes in with this sort of a game where you get to be a pirate. You know what? We can work together, but maybe I'm done with this Kraken stuff and I'm taking a rowboat full of goodies and I'm bailing.
So we're talking, of course, about the game We're Sinking by Ludomus Games.
We got this one, again, Kickstarter, and we've been excited to get our hands on this box for a while now.
Yeah, and it came in right before we went to Gen Con. So we did not get time to play it.
Not at all. Not at all.
I think the box was sitting on your doorstep as we were like packing up for Gen Con.
Yes.
So yeah, 100%. Since then, though, we have gotten a chance to play it a few times, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. So I guess let's go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, so We're Sinking is a 3 to 6 player competitive game in which you take on your role as a pirate in a ship that may or may not be sinking.
It's really up to you.
Yeah, 100%. So you pick an enemy. In the core game, there are 4 different ones that you can choose from, and they actually have a lot of variation in the way that they play. I really like that they feel different. Also, each player gets a specific player character, which does start with a special item that kind of differentiates them between each other. And then you have your choice of 4 actions on the board that you choose each round, right? You can either bail water from the ship, you can try and plunder some of the treasure that's come up, you can try and repair the ship or the cannons, or of course you could fire the cannons. The way you choose those is from a little compass that each player has, where the player will select the action they want to do and turn it over and place it secretly in one of the rows of the action. But the best part is you're placing it secretly, so as any good pirate knows, you can lie.
Again, really going with the pirate theme. I'm loving it.
So then all the tokens are flipped over from left to right to reveal whether or not anyone did lie, and then they get shuffled around into the correct column of where they're supposed to be, and then you resolve the actions down the row for each pirate. The game goes like this until either your ship begins to sink, and it goes down the different levels, or you defeat the monster, and then everyone counts up how many points. That's the one thing that I really love about this game is that fact that there's 2 ways the game can end.
There's multiple win conditions on this one.
Yeah. So if you defeat the monster, which I think is the most straightforward one, right? You kept the ship from sinking, enough people bailed water, whatever. You defeat the monster, then you look in your hands and see how much treasure you have and how many points they're worth, and whoever has the most wins. Cool. Nice and easy. My personal favorite is the other option. If not enough people bail water and the ship starts to sink, you begin taking layers of the little boat off one by one until if you reach that final layer and the monster has not been defeated yet, or the enemy, then the ship has sunk and the player with the fewest number of cards in their hand is the winner because you were able to get away.
The little plastic ship that comes with it is divided, like we were saying, and you slide that bottom piece out as you sink. So you really do get that
The ship is
almost
going
immersion
down.
of the ship sinking into the board.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think that's what sold me on it when we were first looking at the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's such a cool and unique like centerpiece.
Yeah.
Something that is not just a piece on the table, but it actually serves a function. Looking at you, Homelander statue, you know what I'm talking about. Definitely, all around, the gameplay has been really fun. So we have played it at the top of the player count
Yes.
at 6, and we've also played it a couple times at 3. And I'll be honest, it's good at both.
It really is. It really is. I think at 3, we were shuffling through the items and the treasure faster, is what it felt like. But it was still really good. What you pointed out to me while we were playing is at the beginning of each round, you have to check your water levels and add water levels depending on what's happened to the ship. And at 3, that number that you're required to reach of the water cards before you lose a section is much higher. And I was like, that seems weird, but you have less people to bail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it works for you. So you're not any more or less challenged. Like the challenge is still there.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the balance at player count is really well done.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely 100% with that. I think the items and stuff are unique and funny.
Yes.
So one of the ones that I got, which was one of my personal favorite, was the water gun or
The water pistol.
Yeah, where you could give a water card from your hand to another player, like you squirted them with the water gun. It was fantastic. I love that. The artwork on it all fits together. Like it all feels very uniform. Just all in all, like I was excited when we first saw this game on Kickstarter. I'm even more excited now that we've played it a few times. Definitely one. I would say a lot of games struggle at a 5 and 6 player count,
Right.
because of the time and just the keeping everybody engaged.
Yes.
This game does that really well because everybody each round is forced to make choices and decisions and take actions.
I like that a lot. I also like that the diversity in what you get and what you start out with. And you said the different monsters that you get to fight or the enemies that are out there are all different. There's the Kraken, the sharks, skeletons, sirens come in the core box.
Yep. And we got the mini expansion too, which has the ghosts and the navy that you can fight.
We haven't done the Navy yet, but I'm looking forward to that one. I'm going to take that shit personally.
But yeah, the other thing I really like is player aids, right? We talk about it all the time. Having a good player aid can make or break a game.
Sure. Yeah.
In this game, very specifically, each player has their individual player aid, which kind of gives you a quick rundown of the 2 optional win conditions, depending on how things happen. And also the other side is just iconography, what things mean and stuff. On your player board, it tells you all the different actions out of the 4 and what that means to take those actions. And then lastly, the active player, who is considered the first mate, has their own little board that gets passed around that tells exactly the protocol to go through every round. It's very easy, very straightforward. There's no, oh man, did I do step number 4 or 3.5? Or you don't have to remember because it's all right there, including when you start to sink. If you reach the water limit, it tells you, oh, flip it to the other side, and there's a sinking protocol. And you go through all that, and then it's okay, flip it back over and keep going. Really well done. I think that's one thing for me, because we play a lot of different games.
Yes.
So it's very rare that we play the same game over and over again with a consistency that, like, oh yeah, we easily remember that. Obviously, like Forges of Ravenshire, I'll never forget because I've taught that game 18,000 times at Gen Con.
I think at this point it's almost Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Stockton Syndrome. You guys can use that for free.
I hope
Talking to you,
this
Sam.
episode. But yeah, I love having that. That means I don't have to break out the rule book and have it right there for every single thing. It's all right in front of me, easy to do, easy to remember, that sort of thing. Definitely kudos on that for sure. I think that's one thing that they did really well.
Yeah. I like the board layout as well. One of the things that we deal with from time to time, depending on the game, certain boards are oriented a certain way, right? There's a top and bottom to the board.
Yeah.
And as you're sitting around the table, somebody is inevitably going to be upside down on the board.
Right.
This doesn't do that. I think that it fit really well, just the way that the board is laid out. You've got your 3 different decks that you'll have, your water deck, your discard pile, and then the breacher or the breach deck.
Yep.
for when you get holes or cannons get broken. That's where you'll draw those cards from. And then underneath it, the 4 actions that you can choose to take, whether you're bailing water, firing the cannons, patching a cannon or a hole in your ship, or taking plunder. Again, pirates, baby. They're all laid out really well. And we, again, did a full player count. Everybody could see the board. Everybody knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have somebody come lean across you and take a card and read it for 15 minutes.
Yeah, everything is laid out really well with it as well. That's something I didn't really think about, but for sure it's laid out in such a way where if you're set up on each side, like it's pretty easy to see and understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess let's jump into our usual rating system with this game. So let's talk about first up the value. So this game retails MSRP for $54.99. And that space game, which comes with the 4 enemies, the 6 different player characters, of course, all the cards and everything that you need, as well as the cool little ship.
The enemies each have their own individual dice, as well as just general, they're going to hurt you dice. All of that packed into the core box. For $55, again, we really like to compare value to what are you going to get for $55?
Yeah, and so if you think about other entertainments, $55, that's probably, let's say, a family of 4. Sure, we'll argue that. That's a night at the movies.
Chili's is 4 to 6 players. I'm telling you, you got to go in there strong.
Got to get them baby back ribs, and you can't be single player in it. Yeah, but that's easy a night out for a family of 4. And you're going to get guaranteed at least 4 different playthroughs out of this game.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
That would be completely different based on that. But I think the amount of items and the differentiation in the items and the treasure and stuff like that, I think really give it even more than that. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, for value, I think I put that at a solid 9.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. The components, which we'll talk about in a minute, are all really good. The couple times that we've played so far, I'm starting to look and see, it usually takes me a little bit to catch on, where that real pirate mechanic is, because it's not, I don't think so, upfront with it, where it's like, oh, I'm going to steal all the stuff and run. No. If you want to do that, you got to figure out how to help sink the ship.
But it really plays against itself because, and we'll get into this more with gameplay, because if you let the ship sink, you want fewer cards.
Yeah.
But if you save the ship, you want more cards. But in order to save the ship, you can't be going after plunder all the time. So it's a very interesting little dichotomy that's there. So let's jump into components real quick, because I think this might be the one place that I have a small quip with.
Is it the sails?
No, those are okay. It's actually the boat. So our boat doesn't fit tight together. It fits, like, the layers don't quite fit exactly.
Okay.
Like the edges of them, it looks like when they were printed, they warped a little bit. Now, it's a very minor gripe, because to me, when I first saw it, I found it hilarious, because I was like, yeah, this ship gonna sink. There's a hole right there.
It obviously don't even fit together.
Yeah. I don't think that was intentional. And spoiler alert, when we have Joseph on for one of our future episodes,
unless he listens to this and he's like, my boat looks fine. Screw you guys.
So if he comes on, yeah, like I said, we'll ask him in person. But that's a really minor thing for me that some people may have an issue with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, to me, I thought it was hilarious, but it's still one of those things. Other components, though, first off, I'm a sucker for a good tray. Like things that are organized well. When you put it back in the box, everything has its place and everything fits in its place, and it's all just wonderful. So when you open it up, especially in a game like this that has a deck of cards that you need different elements to fill that deck,
Right.
Being able to have them in different places, it's fantastic. We talked about it with Moonrakers, because Moonrakers does the same thing.
Very much, yeah.
It does it really well. You get the same level of quality in this game.
Sure.
And it has a removable tray that keeps the dice in and keeps them separated for all the different monsters. In that tray, you also have the player cards, as far as the character sheets and all the monster boards. Everything just has a place and it fits good. Everything fits inside the box really nicely. There's even a really cool cutout space for the boat to fit in. The only question mark, I think, would be the sails.
The sails are something that you have to put the 2 masts on every time you put the boat together, right? So it goes back into the box, you take the masts off, And the sails are little plastic sails, and they're like grooves in the masts where you basically just bend them a little and clip them in there. They're fine, and they look really good, right?
Yeah, they look fantastic. And I think we talked about it when we were first looking at it, like, man, I wish they could stay on the boat, but then like how would you package that? Exactly. And honestly, the way they did it, I think is good. I don't think there's any way you could have done it differently and still have that same kind of quality that you have with it now.
Sure. Like I said, they're really cool when they are on the boat. They are easy to take on and off. I think we had a gripe about it, like, why can't we just make it better? And they're like, oh, because it wouldn't fit in the box as well, and it would be a pain.
Because we, as full like confession, we are not game designers. We have never gone through the process of like renderings to try and fit components in a box.
Sure.
So when we look at stuff like that, now that we have the experience we do of being around people who have done that, some of them multiple times, we go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Now that's completely where we're at. So again, any complaints I feel like we had with components were extremely minor.
Mm-hmm.
The cards themselves feel very great. I know they got an upgrade in the Kickstarter.
Yes.
I know the dice did as well. They're a little bit larger than originally planned.
Which old people like me are really appreciating.
Yeah. Very nice iconography. But yeah, I think all in all, honestly, I'd easily give these components a 9, maybe 9.5.
Yeah. Well done. And it's not just well done and it does its job, but well done. And they're that little bit step above. Yeah. They are very nice to play with. I do like the dice. I do like your cannon dice. It took me a second to figure out how those work.
Yeah, that was a little questionable. I was like, do we get more shots? But no, it makes sense that as you level up the cannons, you get more sides that count as a hit.
So you have a 6-sided dice. A single cannon has one actual hit marker that you use. A double cannon has 2, and a triple cannon has 3. And you can look at them really quickly and figure out which one is which.
Yeah,
because a single cannon will have just a single like mark on
one
every
of the corners.
Yep. And the double has 2, the triple has 3, stuff like that. From somebody who has actually fired a cannon on a naval vessel, like old school sailing ship. Had nothing to do with it, but I felt like that was a fun experience to have. I also had a ship in a bottle at one point. Really hasn't helped me out this game.
I feel more qualified to roll cannon dice.
That's right.
Get out of my way.
Let an expert step up and get this one. So, yeah, components easily 9. Like, just they are done really well. As you're rolling through, it's quick. You know exactly what you're doing and where you're going.
Yeah. So let's talk gameplay.
Okay. So, like we said, I don't know at what point you make the decision what kind of a pirate you're going to be in this game. That's something that I am dealing with as we play through. On a personal note,
what kind of pirate do I want to be? Yeah, I think the most obvious route is saving the ship.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to go through games that I played, and almost every other game that has like a mechanism where it's protect or save or like a communal effort, basically. Right. Usually that's part of the game. The opposite of that, even if it's a potential win condition, is usually much harder to achieve. Like particularly I'm thinking about like Nemesis.
Yeah.
Or other semi-cooperative games like that. So like in Nemesis, you have all these things you need to check. You need to make sure that, you're going to the right place. You need to make sure the engines aren't going to blow up. You need to make sure like all these other things are correct before like you punch it, or else like the ship blows up, everybody dies, that sort of thing. There are certain like parts in that where like you could technically sabotage things and make your way off the ship, but it's usually a whole lot more difficult to do. It doesn't feel that way in this. There's not like a true like sabotage type like mechanic necessarily. Yeah. So I think for many players, especially first time playthrough, saving the ship is the most obvious thing. So to me though, that tells me that this game's going to have a lot of replayability, because as people play the game and begin to figure out where that line is, I think it's going to make a lot more interesting gameplay.
Yes, definitely.
And I think we've talked about that personally, is that we feel like, like you just said, now that we played it a few times, there's a whole lot more options as far as like what you feel like you can do, and like where you can push that line of, should I save the ship or should I let people think I'm saving the ship, and whatnot.
Because that's one of those interesting mechanics that happens as well with your compass dial, where you choose what action you are going to do, you can pick your action and place it in one of the columns, but you've actually set it to something else. So everybody on the surface looks like, oh, we've got 2 people bailing and we've got 1 person firing and 1 person patching. And then you reveal those dials and it's, no, all 4 of us are plundering. Okay, so we've pirated this one all the way.
Yeah.
I think that's something that leads into it, figuring out. And then there are some situations, like specifically when we're playing against the Sirens, one of their dice rolls actually tells you the last person to be doing this action gets bonus cards.
And the other one, which I really liked from them, was, hey, you guys can't talk to each other until everything has been revealed, which I think that's really cool because in that discussion phase, there's really opportunity to be like, I think we should do this, and I'm going to do
Right.
this, and the next thing you know, that guy's just plundering the whole time.
Yeah.
So yeah, for gameplay, definitely it was very smooth. It's very easy to pick up. Like I said, I think it gets more interesting the more you understand about the game and the more you play through it.
Yes.
I think this has potential, a potential pitfall of being a game that we may heavily depend on the group you're playing with.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you've got a bunch of like chaos goblins in your group, you're going to have issues with them all deciding that they want to go rogue. One thing that I do like, though, there is a plunder column where you stack treasure. And if you decide to plunder, you get all those cards. If more than you decide to plunder, you divide those cards up. But if too many plunder, nobody gets any of the treasure.
Yeah, I think that's a very good balancing mechanic when it comes to that. I don't think it's as heavily dependent on players as something that is more like social.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it does have an element in there where I think it would take this game from being good to being great, depending on the group that you have.
Yeah.
No matter who you play it with, I think this game is going to be good.
Yeah.
But I think with the right group of players that really get into it, that sort of thing, I think this game just has potential to be great. So for me, gameplay, I think I'm going to give it, I'll give it a solid 8. Because like I said, I think even in a group that is not maybe ideal for something like this, I think it's still a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Replayability, we've talked about, one, because there are so many objects in the game that you get to use and so many different types of the treasure. There's also the 4 different adversaries that you have without the add-on pack.
Yep.
They all play very differently. And they can have a huge impact on how you are playing the game. I think that gives it a lot of opportunity for replayability. And then just because multiple win conditions and you figuring out how to get to both of those.
Yeah. The fact that whenever you break out this game, you don't know how it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
Whether will the win condition be the ship sank or will it be that you guys defeated the adversary?
Right.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
It really is. I think there's enough change in the player characters with the items that I think that's a great place to start as well. There's just a lot of really good stuff in here that allow you to play this game over and over and get a different experience each time.
Every time, right? Yeah. You don't really know what you're going to do. It's not like Secret Hitler where there's a meta and you got to go play the meta if you want to win. You're not going to know until you open the box and you're like 2 rounds in how you want to try to win this.
Yeah. So I think that's fantastic. I think replayability, I give it a 9. So let's talk overall. So like I said, a lot of stuff for me was very minor. Any kind of negatives that I had about this game. It's something that I know we've been super excited about for a long time. And it's something we were excited to get to the table, and I feel like it delivered.
Absolutely. 100%. Even when we were at Gen Con, we were talking about wanting to get back home and play this, surrounded by the best 4 days in gaming. And we were excited to come home to break this out and be able to put it on the table. And for us, we got it there pretty quick.
Yeah. I do hate we didn't get to connect with him at Gen Con because he was there.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, so
he's only 3 hours away if we want to drive up and visit.
Yeah, or maybe he just needs to come take a beach weekend or something.
There you go.
But yeah, so overall score, I think I give this a 9. I really do, which it may be an 8.5, but I think for me it's a 9.
Yeah. I started at 8.5, just overall, just with everything. And then I packed it away and I'm like, ooh, this could be a 9.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed our plays of this so far. And I really feel, again, one thing for me, we don't have a lot of great games that do well at 6 players that aren't like a party game, honestly. And I think that's a tough player count sometimes because it's really easy to lose players at that player.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's one of the big things for me is one, it holds a spot in our collection I don't think that we have currently. And I think that's something big for us, especially with pushing the collection that we have. But also just overall, it's been a really kind of unique experience that brings the theme together really well. And at the end of the day, no matter what the group you're playing with, it's just a good game.
Absolutely. And just remember, no matter what your group is, there be pirates.
You're a lonely sailor, and your soul is made of wind and rain, doubts and blame. I'm a weary pirate and spoiled champagne. I've got troubles, I've got sins on my worst.
Hey, in our crowdfunding roundup today, we've got Stained Glass, Dark Tombs, and Potion-Wielding Rangers. Let's get kicked off first with the Lord of the Rings officially licensed stained glass artwork and window clings from Geek Orthodox.
Yeah, so this project popped up when we were looking for some other game-related projects to share with you guys this week. And as a huge Lord of the Rings fan, this immediately got my attention. So Geek Orthodox is known for making some really cool stuff, specifically in the stained glass world. And they got the license to do these stained glass art pieces as well as window clings that look about as close to stained glass as you can get without the real thing. So the project that they have a few different designs. They have some small window clings, they have some corner clings, larger versions, and then they actually have some stained glass pieces that you can order.
And all of these are very much in that style. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan and you look at this, it's going to click. Even if you're not, there's been enough of it floating around that you're going to see the same sort of style that you see in the movies for their artwork.
The art on them is absolutely beautiful. It's very much in that like traditional stained glass art style. But you have with the window cling specifically, you have the green dragon inn sign, you have the prancing pony, you have the bag end as well, and of course the party tree, like all these really iconic places and things that were in the original series. So definitely one of these things I was immediately drawn to it. If you are a fan, I think you will be too. So let's talk about some of the pricing and some of the things that they have. So first up, their first available reward that they have is a small window cling, which measures 8 by 12 inches. You have your choice of 6 different designs, and they run for $25. So you can, of course, get more than one. You can get all 6 of them if you want. And in fact, if you do get an order that's over $100, they actually throw in a free squeegee for you to apply them. They are reusable. They don't use an adhesive to apply to the window. So if you do put them up somewhere, you can actually change where they're at and all that good stuff.
So the next package they have is a set of 4 corner clings for $45. And there are 3 different designs that you can pick from there. The Old Toby, the Gaffer's Garden, and the Ring Around the Rosie.
Yeah, I think they're really good if your window's maybe larger than the size of the cling, frames it a little bit and makes that style look really nice. The next one that they have are their large window cling. It's the same 6 designs as the small one, but this comes in a 16 by 24 inch size. So much larger, and those are $70 a piece. Again, you get to select your design, and of course you can get as many of those as you want.
So the next package you could get into the actual stained glass with Sting and the Ring Suncatcher. I liked this one a lot when we first looked at it because I think Sting has just been iconic, especially growing up in my generation where the first Hobbits we saw were animated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sting was always a big thing. For $115, it measures 5 by 10 inches and again is actual stained glass.
The next package that they have is the full set of 6 of the small window clings, and those are $125. And then we get into another level of stained glass, which is the Hobbit door Suncatcher, which has, of course, the iconic round door from Bag End, and of course the quote, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit." So really cool. That one is $130 for that.
Next up, the pick 6 for the large window clings comes in at $3.90. So you get, again, the same 6 clings in the larger size. And then one of my favorites, the original stained glass home design, which is home spelled out with the O being the one ring.
Yeah.
And then no admittance except on party business. $5.25, and it's 12 by 24 inches.
And then, of course, the big feature piece of this Kickstarter is the Lord of the Rings title design. That piece measures 18 by 24 inches and comes up to $650 for that.
And then, if you're a big fan with big money, the full fellowship gets you all of it, including 2 of the enamel pins that come with it and a Ring Bearer concert t-shirt, which is the Ring Bearer live at the party tree. This is just fantastic. It's the farewell performance on the back when it tells you all the special guests, including the Baggins, the Boffins, the Tooks. There's a whole list of names like it's a concert. Well done, guys. Well done.
Yeah, the design on the shirt and the pins is fantastic. In fact, if I don't get one of the window clings, I want to see if I can back this just to maybe get the shirt and the pins. They just did really good with it. So yeah, so that is this project. They are looking at making fulfillment by December of this year for all the window clings, and then by March of next year for the actual stained glass pieces.
Right now, there's 10 days to go. It is fully backed by about 400, 500%. So if you're interested, go take a look. It's definitely going to get made. And Geek Orthodox has a really good name out there when it comes to this kind of an artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one that we have for you is a fantastic little dungeon crawler that is great to pack and take with you. If you have large pockets, it'll fit in your pocket. We're talking, of course, about Dark Tomb and their newest expansion, the Ice Chasers.
So this is their newest expansion. There are 2 previous to this.
Yes.
That you can find. The Crypts of Aurelian and the Bloodthorn Island.
Yeah.
These we were talking about are great. There's a couple of games out there that do this where they are this small kind of tin box in your pocket kind of game that you can carry around. Really great for if you're standing in line at, I don't know, PAX or something.
Yeah, this looks really cool. One, because it seems to be something that you can, of course, pack around with you, but also plays really quickly. It says 15 to 40 minutes, though. So I'm assuming like if you try and play through the whole thing, that it'll take that 40 minutes. But it says a 1-minute prep time, which I think is a really cool setup. But yeah, it's basically a dungeon crawler that fits in your pocket. And a lot of the parts of it are randomized. So every time you break it out, it feels a little bit different. I know they put 4 new characters in this set, as well as some new monsters, and of course, the new location and things like that. So this looks really interesting. I haven't ever played any of the Dark Tomb games, but looking at this Kickstarter and watching some of the review videos, definitely interested in it. For the price of it as well, it's one of those, I feel like I'd have to try it.
You can start out your pledge levels with 1 copy of the game, the Dark Tomb, the Ice Chasers, for $20.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's how many of these do you want to buy?
Yeah. How many Christmas gifts do you need to give this year? That's but of course they have their 2 previous games as well, or the Crypts of Aurelian and the Bloodthorn Island. You can add on for $20 a piece to whatever pledge level you decide to pledge at. So really you could get all 3 of the ones that they have put out for $60 plus your shipping.
Which is 3 really good looking games. The gameplay on them definitely looks like it's a lot of fun. I like having the different characters to choose from.
If you're going to a restaurant that was really slow on service, like 100%, this is the game to bring with you. So yeah, that is Dark Tomb, the Ice Chasers.
So it's got 18 days left as of right now. And of the $4,000 they set as their goal, they're at $169,000.
I think they made it.
They're good. Yeah, they're good. Our last project that we have for you guys. On our last episode, we got to talk to Chris from Moon Saga Games. It was a fun interview. It was a fun talk that we got to have. I found out more than I ever knew about being a falconer and that you actually need a license, which crushed a lot of my dreams immediately because I was just going to go rope one and try from there. Maybe start with a goose and work my way up.
Do like a June bug and tie a string around its leg, see if it flies in circles.
But the big point of that interview was him talking about his game, Parks and Potions.
Yeah, so we discussed it a little bit in the interview with him, of course, but it's finally out at Kickstarter. So now you can go and check out all of the awesome looking artwork for yourselves. You're able to see a lot of really cool reviews as well of people who got their copies on the game, and just really take a look at it, because we, of course, can describe to you all day long how beautiful it looks and how great the pieces are and all those wonderful things from the copy that we got a chance to play. But a lot of times seeing is believing.
That's right. And there are plenty of great pictures and videos and stuff on the Kickstarter page where you can see and verify all the stuff that we had talked about. Let's look at what Chris has for your pledge levels.
So I love he includes $1 pledge level for access to the pledge manager. I love that. I think everyone should always do that with their Kickstarters, for a couple of reasons. One, it gives players or people who are interested in the game an ability to put a small investment into the game and then see how things go and then fully back at a later date. But also it gives people who may not have the money to fully back at that time, it gives them a few months to get access to the game anyway.
We know we've stretched stuff that way because Kickstarter can be an addiction.
So to get Parks and Potions, the base game is a $30 for just that first base pledge, which honestly, for the pieces and things that are in here, that's fantastic. We talked before about just the quality of the pieces, and you heard Chris as we were talking, that was one thing that he really focused on, right? He wanted both the artwork to be really good, and he wanted an artist who was willing to work with him through the process, not just draw something and leave it. And also he wanted the pieces to really have a nice tactile feel and be really a good board presence. Right. So for $30 for all the really cool stuff that he has in the game, I think it's fantastic.
You can, though, go ahead and start upgrading your Parks and Potions with the deluxe bundle. So you get a copy of the game, you get Kickstarter exclusive deluxe metal box sleeve, a Kickstarter exclusive metal first player badge pin, the acrylic deluxe kit, and all of the applicable stretch goals that they unlock.
Yeah, for $60, I will say the acrylic pieces are worth that.
Easy.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Everything in the base game is great. The artwork is great. And if you're not really into specialty pieces like we are, then that's great. Like $30 is perfect. It's a great game. The gameplay on it's fantastic. It's got unique mixing mechanisms and things like that I haven't really seen other games do. But if you like tactile pieces, if you like the feel of those nice acrylic tokens, you're going to want to go deluxe.
On top of just being really nice, it does make the game a lot easier when you're talking about traveling with it lasting for a while, because there's a lot of replayability in this one just because of the different game modes that it'll offer you.
The most important part right now is if you back, you're actually going to save money off the MSRP. So that's really a great reason. If you think this is a game you would like, there are a bunch of reviews, including ones where we talked about it, but also other people from the like YouTube community and things like that who have done awesome playthroughs and reviews of it. So go check those out. I think this is a great price that he's got this on his Kickstarter. And it's definitely something you should jump in on if it's the type of game that you're interested in.
So as of right now, the game has 23 days left on Kickstarter. His original goal was $10,000, and right now we are at $53,000 with almost 1,000 backers. First off, congratulations, Chris. This was the good scenario that we talked about, and we're excited to see what you do with that. But for the rest of you, you've got some time to go check it out, and it'll definitely be worth it. All right, and with that, the team has worked brilliantly together, finding the cures for both the yellow and blue diseases and eradicating them from the board.
But the remaining 2 diseases are still uncontained and spreading quickly as the players begin their turn.
The first action is to charter a flight to a city where a colleague is waiting, and they share knowledge as their second action, discovering enough cards to create a cure. The player's third action is to build a research station, and their final action is to discover that cure, for the Black Disease.
Finishing their actions, they draw 2 cards, one of which is the Epidemic card. The location to infect is Seoul, and it causes an outbreak spreading to all the connected cities and using up all but one of the red infection cubes.
The 3 infection cards are drawn. First a blue, then a yellow, but finally a red, and Shanghai takes another cube and erupts in an outbreak, leaving the reserve of red disease cubes completely exhausted and ending the game for our would-be medical heroes.
For the Dapper Meeple, I'm Josh.
And I'm Jim.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around and listening to our show.
If you enjoyed it, let me ask you a favor. Follow us and leave a like wherever you get your podcast. It'll really help us out.
And if you have anything to say back to us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for the Dapper Meeple. Or you can email us at dappermeeplegaming@gmail.com.
And as always, we'll save you a seat at the table.